So my question follows on a bit from my answer, which is about form and change in theatre. So the forms of theatre and performance are continually changing. They're adapting, evolving in response to ideas and technologies and desires. I think it's important to think about the material effects of productions, but I think it's vital to consider the experience of theatre itself, the heart of its art making, its immediacy, its relations, and how these too might need to change. So my question is, what would you keep from theatre and performance practice, and what needs to change in response to climate instability?
My name is Mojisola Adebayo, and this is an extract from Moj of the Antarctic, an African Odyssey. It's the opening of the show where the storyteller introduces the themes. Once we were Gondwana, Africa and Antarctica, Antarctica and Africa, one content continent. Before nakedness and the snake, before enlightenment, before enlightenment, Gondwana, where day and night danced a duet in step together 2 million years ago. Gondwana, Africa and Antarctica, a history of the future. One melts, the other sinks, we all disappear. 1 million, 2 million, 3 million more, from ice to sea, to land to shore, melting, rising, flooding seas, salt to soil, drought, disease, desert, desertification, creatures, comforts, coasts, erosion, forest, deforestation. More land, more light, more wind, more flight of souls soaked. Tempest, justice. Tempest, just ice, just us, washing away sand and land and memories, memories. One melts, the other sinks, we all disappear. Magic. Imagine Gondwana. Once we were one. I am Mojisola Adebayo, and I'm a theatre artist, performer, writer, director, teacher, producer, and I'm probably most known for my performance Moj of the Antarctic, an African Odyssey, which is a play set in the mid-19th century which tells the story of an African-American slave woman who cross-dresses as a white man to escape slavery. And in my play, she becomes a sailor on board a whaling ship bound for the Southern Ocean and becomes the first black woman to step foot on Antarctica. The question I've been given by Wallace Heim is, what would you keep from theatre and performance practice, and what needs to change in response to climate instability? I was speaking to my partner this morning. She works for the Royal Shakespeare Company. And I asked her this question, and she said that she thinks some people in theatre think they're above climate change. And I really, really love that image, that somehow we're kind of above this subject. And I think I agree with that. And I think that in theatre and the performance world, somehow we have this kind of belief that theatre is inherently good for you. Therefore, theatre makers inherently do good. And that nothing in our work could ever be harmful. I don't think we ever think our work could be harmful in any way. And I think this kind of relates to this question of climate change. I don't think that we're taking the subject seriously. I don't think we're taking our practice particularly seriously. And I think what needs to change is that attitude, the attitude that we're somehow above this subject. Because obviously climate change, wherever we work, wherever we live, has an effect on us all. So I think it's the first thing that needs to change is a kind of attitude, I think. Secondly, thinking about Shakespeare, Shakespearean theatre was probably some of the most eco-friendly theatre there was, and some of the greatest theatre there was in the Western world. So people performed outside, used the sunlight for light. In terms of marketing, there weren't masses of flyers and pamphlets and thick programmes and all that kind of stuff. And I think our theatre today is very much characterised by excess and indulgence in terms of big sets and costumes and marketing and international touring and all this kind of thing. And I think perhaps we need to start thinking about what we need less of, and to start to strip that stuff away. Lope de Vega said, theatre is two human beings, a passion and a platform. And I'd say throw a bit of poetry in there and that's good enough for me. So I think, yeah, in terms of, I think we need to think about stripping away. And very practically, I think we need to address the subject of international touring. And lastly, I think, and this is everything I'm saying is as much for me as anybody else, I think we also need to be wary of climate change opportunism. I think there's an interesting thing that's happening is we're starting to make work in response to the subject of climate change, which I think is fantastic. Theatre makers must make work in response to everything, but I think we need to be very careful of using climate change just as an excuse to make more work, but without really taking responsibility for our actions. And I see a lot of that happening. I've probably been involved in some of it, and I think we need to be careful of it. So yeah, what do I think we need to change? I think we need to reduce, reuse, recycle, create locally, and review our attitudes in terms of our position as theatre makers. I think we're a little bit arrogant, and I think we need to change that.